Ladies and gentlemen, we are back to reading yet again. Yeah, we're going to be closing out the year reading and starting the new year reading. I think actually the next video is the last one for the year. But anyway, yeah, I don't really have much else to say, but we're continuing the ancient tales of the Dwemer, so they say. The ancient tales of the Dwemer that are actually not about the Dwemer. And I believe we only have 2 more of these novels remaining. Yes, that is true. Chimarvamidium. Chimarvamidium. Yeah, something like that. I'm not too sure. As well as more mortal men, something like that. And then we got just, I don't know, then we'll probably read some books from the DLC, Shivering Isles, and then in the next 5 videos after that, we'll probably just be reading literally nothing but the real Baron Zaya, because these books are excruciatingly long. Yeah, it really is just going to be, each episode is going to be me reading one fucking book. Goddamn, that is brutal. Absolutely brutal. The first 4 aren't too bad. It's the 5th one that's just like an absolute monstrosity of a book at fucking, what is it, 88 pages. Insanity. Anyway, Chimarvamidium, something like that. Ancient Tales of the Dwemer, Part 6. There's a lot of parts that aren't actually things, but anyway. By Marobar Sol. After many battles, it was clear who would win the war. The Chimer had great skills in magic and blattery? But against the armored battalions of the Dwemer, clad in the finest shielding wrought by Django, there was little hope of their ever winning. In the interests of keeping some measure of peace in the land, Stoven, the warlord, agreed to a truce with Caranithil, Barif, the Beast. In exchange for the disputed lands, God, dude, why is there an S and a TH? Stoven. Gave Barif a mighty golem, which would protect the Chimer's territory from the excursions of the northern barbarians. Barif was delighted with his gift and brought it back to his camp, where all his warriors gaped in awe at it. Sparkling golden hue, it resembled a Dwemer cavalier with a proud aspect. To test its strength, they placed the golem in the center of an arena and flung magical bolts of lightning at it. Its agility was such that few of the bolts struck it. It had the wherewithal to pivot on its hips to avoid the brunt of the attacks without losing its balance, feet firmly planted on the ground. A vault of fireballs followed, which the golem ably dodged, bending its knees and its legs to spin around the blasts. The few times it was struck, it made certain to be hit in the chest and waist, the strongest parts of its body. The troops cheered at the sight of such an agile and powerful creature. With it leading the defense, the barbarians of Skyrim would never again successfully raid their villages. They named it Chimarvamidium, the hope of the Chimer. I suppose it's Chimarvamidium. Yeah. Barif had the golem brought to his chambers with all his house thanes. Yeah. There they tested Chimarvamidium further, its strength, its speed, its resiliency. They could find no flaw with its design. Imagine when the naked barbarians first meet this on one of their raids, laughed one of the house thanes. Oh, I can only imagine Lydia saying something so stupid like that. It is only unfortunate that it resembles a Dwemer instead of one of our own, mused Caranithil Barif. It is revolting to think that they will have a greater respect for our other enemies than us. I think we should never accepted the peace terms that we did. I think we should never have accepted the peace terms that we did, said another, one of the most aggressive of the house thanes. Is it too late to surprise the warlord's Slothin with an attack? It is never too late to attack, said Barif. But what of his great armored warriors? I understand, said Barif's spy master, that his soldiers always wake at dawn. If we strike an hour before, we can catch them defenseless, before they've had a chance to bathe, let alone don their armor. If we capture their armor, Janago, then we too would know the secrets of blacksmithery," said Barif. "Let it be done. We attack tomorrow, an hour before dawn." So it was settled. The Chimer armies marched at night and swarmed into the Dwemer camp. They were relying on Chimarvamidium to lead the first wave, but it malfunctioned and began attacking the Chimer's own troops. Yeah, probably because you can't really turn a dwarven mechanism against the dwarves, so I feel like that wouldn't really work. But anyway, added to that, the Dwemer were fully armored, well-rested, and eager for battle. The surprise was turned, and most of the high-ranking Chimer, including Krenethil, Barif the Beast, were captured. Though they were too proud to ask, Stuffin explained to them that they had been warned of their attack by a calling by one of his men. "What man of yours is in our camp?" sneered Barif. Chimarvamidium, standing erect by the side of the captured, removed its head. Within its metal body was Jnago, the armorer. "A Dwemer child of 8 can create a golem," he explained, "but only a truly great warrior and armorer can pretend to be one." Whoa! Okay. Stupid fucking story, I'm not gonna lie, but whatever. This is one of the few tales in this collection which can actually be traced to the Dwemer. Wow, holy shit. The wording of the story is quite different from older versions in Aldmeris, but the essence is the same. Chimarvamidium may be the Dwemer... oh my god, dude, what? Nishmarthernindamaz. Yeah, that. This word occurs several times in plans of Dwemer armor and Animakuli, but its meaning is not known. It is almost certainly not Hope of the Chimer, however. Definitely not. The Dwemer were probably the first to use heavy armors. It is important to note how a man dressed in armor could fool many of the Chimer in this story. Also note how the Chimer warriors react. When this story was first told, armor that covered the whole body must have still been uncommon and new, whereas even then, Dwemer creations like golems and centurions were well known. In a rare scholarly moment, Marobar Soul... I love that the publisher is just like constantly drag on the dude. And like, do you really need to be like that? In a rare scholarly moment, Marobar Soul leaves a few pieces of the original story intact, such as parts of the original line in Aldmeris. A Dwemer of 8 can create a golem, but an 8 of Dwemer can become one. Another aspect of this legend that scholars like myself find interesting is the mention of the calling. In this legend and in others, there is a suggestion that the Dwemer race as a whole had some sort of silent and magical communication. There are records of the Psijic Order which suggest they too share the secret. Whatever the case, there are no documented spells of calling. Cyrodiil historians Borgacillus Mallier first proposed this as a solution to the disappearance of the Dwemer. He theorized that in the First Era 668, the Dwemer enclaves were called together by one of their powerful philosopher-sorcerers, Kagranach, in some documents, to embrace on a great journey, one of such sublime profundity that they abandoned all their cities and lands to join the conquest of foreign climes as an entire culture. Wow. Alright, More Than Mortal was the last book. Alright, More Than Mortal, let's finish off this pseudo-series that we got going on. The Dowry, Ancient Tales of the Dwemer, Part 10, by Marobar Soul. This fucking name, dude. Fuck it, I'm dropping the first letter. Oh, it's a Y, okay. But, like, what happened to the bottom of the Y? Right? Why'd they just remove the bottom of the Y? Alright. Yanale was the wealthiest landowner in Gunal, and he had over the years saved a tremendous dowry for the man who would marry his daughter, Jenefra. When she reached the age of consent, he locked the gold away for safekeeping and announced his intention to have her marry. She was a comely lass, a scholar, a great athlete, but dour and brooding in aspect. This personality defect did not bother her potential suitors any more than her positive traits impressed them. Every man knew the tremendous wealth that would be his as the husband of Jenefra and son-in-law of Yanalfe. That alone was enough for hundreds to come to Gunal to pay court. "The man who will marry my daughter," said Yunalfi to the assembled, "must not be doing so purely out of avarice. He must demonstrate his own wealth to my satisfaction." This simple pronouncement removed a vast majority of the suitors, who knew they could not impress the landowner with their meager fortunes. A few dozen did come forward within a few days, clad in fine Kilark? Yeah, Kilark, I don't know what the fuck that is, but cloth of spun silver, accompanied by exotic servants traveling in magnificent carriages. Of all who came who met with Yunalfi's approval, none arrived in a more resplendent fashion than Welin Nerillic. The young man, who no one had ever heard of, arrived in a shining ebon coach drawn by a team of dragons. The fuck does that even mean? His clothing of rarest manufacture, and accompanied by an army of the most fantastical servants any of Gunal had ever seen. Probably stole a shit ton of money in order to get this. I feel like that's the spin we're about to get. I don't know. Valets with eyes on all sides of their heads, maidservants that seemed cast in gemstones. But such was not enough with Yunalfi. God damn, you picky fucking bastard. "The man who marries my daughter must prove himself an intelligent, The man who marries my daughter must prove himself a intelligent fellow, for I would not have an ignoramus as a son-in-law and business partner," he declared. This eliminated a large part of the wealthy suitors who, through their lives of luxury, had never needed to think very much, if at all. Some still came forward over the next few days, demonstrating their wit and learning, quoting the great sages of the past and offering their philosophies of metaphysics and alchemy. Welin Nerillic, too, came and asked Yunalfi to dine at the villa he had rented outside of Gunal. There, the landowner saw scores of scribes working on translations of all the married tracts and enjoyed the young man's somewhat irreverent but intriguing intelligence. Nevertheless, though he was much impressed with Welin Nerillic, Yunalfi, definitely mispronouncing that like crazy, whatever, had another challenge. "I love my daughter very much," said Yunalfi, "and I hope that the man who marries her will make her happy as well. Should any of you make her smile, she and the great dowry are yours." The suitors lined up for days, singing her songs, proclaiming the devotion, describing her beauty in the most poetic of terms. Ginevra merely glanced at all with hatred and melancholia. Yunalfi, who stood by her side, began to despair at last. His daughter's suitors were failing to a man at this task. Finally, Welin Nerillic came to the chamber. "I will make your daughter smile." God, this poor fucking depressed-ass lady. God, you can't smile for anyone? Not a one? Goddamn, that's just sad. That's just really sad. "I dare say I'll make her laugh, but only after you've agreed to marry us." Ooh. "If she is not delighted within 1 hour of our engagement, the wedding can be called off." Yunalfi turned to his daughter. She was not smiling, but her eyes had sparked with some morbid curiosity in this young man. As no other suitor had even registered that for her, he agreed. "The dowry is naturally not to be paid till after you've wed," said Yunalfi. "Being engaged is not enough." "Might I see the dowry still?" asked Welin. Knowing how fabled the treasure was and understanding that this would likely be the closest the young man would come to possessing it, Yunalfi agreed. He had grown quite fond of Welin. On his orders, Welin, Yunalfi, Glum Ginevra, and the Castellan delved deep into the stronghold of Gunal. The first vault had to be opened by touching a series of runic symbols. Why are you going to show him all, like, how to do all of this? That doesn't seem very smart, but whatever. Should one of the marks be mispressed, a volley of poisoned arrows would have struck the thief. Yunalfi was particularly proud of the next level of security, a lock composed of blades. Yeah, you're telling way too many details here. Of blades with 18 tumblers required 3 keys to be turned simultaneously to allow entry. The blades were designed to eviscerate any who merely picked up one of the locks. Finally, they reached the storeroom. It was entirely empty. "By Lorcan, we've been burgled! God, I hate that fucking word," cried Yunalfi. "But how? "Who could have done this?" "A humble, but, if I may say so, rather talented burglar," said Wellen. "A man who has loved your daughter from afar for many years, but did not possess the glamour or the learning to impress. That is, until the gold from her dowry afforded me the opportunity." Well, I was right about him stealing it. I just didn't quite realize it was going to be from him. But, yeah, okay. I probably should have been able to predict that. Whatever. "You!" bellowed Yanalfi, scarcely able to believe it. Then something even more unbelievable happened. Gnefra began to laugh. She had never even dreamed of meeting anyone like this thief. She threw herself into his arms, and definitely not into his father's arms. She threw herself into his arms before her father's outraged eyes. After a moment, Yanalfi too began to laugh. Gnefra and Wellen were married in a month's time. Respect on him for being able to move past that. I mean, he was going to give the money away anyway. So, oh boy, alright. Though he was in fact quite poor and had little scholarship, Yanalfi was amazed at how much his wealth increased with such a son-in-law and business partner. He only made certain never to ask from whence came the excess gold. Oh boy. Publisher's note. The tale of a man trying to win the hand of a maiden whose father, usually a wealthy man or a king, tests each suitor is quite common. See, for instance, just appreciate the goddamn story, alright, would you? For once, can you appreciate the story? See, for instance, the more recent Four Suitors of Benetat. See, I've never heard of that. By Jolf Yolivis. The behavior of the characters is quite out of character for the Dwemer. No one today knows their marriage customs, or even if they had marriage at all. One rather odd theory of the disappearance of the dwarves came from this, and a few other tales of Marobar soul. It was proposed that the Dwemer never, in fact, left. They did not depart to Nirn, much less the continent of Tamriel, and they are still among us, disguised. These scholars use the story of Azura in the box to suggest that the Dwemer feared Azura, a being they could neither understand nor control, and they adopted the dress and manner of Chimer and Altmer in order to hide from Azura's gaze. Interesting theory. Could it be true? Probably not, but maybe. I don't know. And with that is all the books in the main base game, with the exception of The Real Baron Zaya, volumes 1 through 5, because goddamn, those books are going to suck. Anyway, let's, we got some other books that we can try and read. The Fall of Vitharn. How many? 15 pages. Alright, yeah, we'll read this, and then that should do it for today. Vitharn, The Fall, Chapter 1. Of course, Vitharn is one of the locations that we freed from the curse that they had after their city was attacked by heretics or some type of people. I forgot exactly who it was. Yeah. Anyway, Vitharn, The Fall, Chapter 1. Probably should have read this a while ago, but whatever. In which the keep Vitharn is established and passes from the first generation of rule to the second. Count Vitharn, who built and appointed his keep from the mud of dementia, gathered to himself any who would pledge themselves as liege. Nearby tribes of fanatics were united as vassals to protect his lands in line, and thus the Count lived out his days in the Isles. He and his Countess Moween bore Kassarin and Nuilia, the first son and daughter of Vitharn. Kassarin's mother and father believed that with the proper political influence, Kassarin could certainly usurp Sheogorath. God, everybody's trying to overthrow Sheogorath. Goddamn. Could certainly usurp Sheogorath and carry the Shivering Isles into a prosperous age. For his part, Count Vitharn refused even to acknowledge Sheogorath, thinking himself and his heirs irrefutable rulers of the Isles. Yeah, good fucking try. This, of course, amused the mad god to no end, and so he allowed the marriage of Kassarin to Sheen in Glade, daughter of an Argonian midwife who believed that the mortal sphere would afford her daughter nothing but hatred and oppression. Sheen in Glade was as excellent a countess to Kassarin as any in the Isles could ask for, wanting nothing but to bring pride and honor to her adopted house and court. For years her mind was untouched, even living as she did in the heart of dementia. Alas, none may reside too long in the Isles without the blessing of Lord Sheogorath, and so Sheen in Glade was finally pushed to the brink by the infidelity of her husband, the Count. Kassarin was obsessively nepotistic and distrustful of anyone with whom he shared no blood relation, including his bride. Though Sheen in Glade bore a son by the Count, Oh boy, an Argonian and a human. What does that son look like, huh? Okay. Who disappeared from the Isles in his 20th year. It is known that the two shared their bed with decreasing frequency as Kassarin's paranoia grew, and he found himself in the arms of his birth sister, Nuila, who bore of their incestuous affair the heir apparent, Cesrian. There are those of us who remember personally the reign of Cesrian and his contribution to the fall of Vitharn. Chapter 2, in which the birth of Countess Cesrian heralds a glorious, bloody, and brief age for Vitharn. Violent-natured and quick of temper, Cesrian sought enemies where there were none. His early days on the seat of Vitharn saw the extermination of every tribe of man, mer, or beast within sight of the keep, until none were left. During his brief reign, much of the southeastern coastline of Dementia was unsafe to travel, littered with the corpses of trespassers in the lands of Vitharn, staked to trees as territorial markers. Besides his sadistic temper, Count Cesrian of Vitharn was known also for his slow wit and ailing health. Indeed, Cesrian was born with legs that seemed mismatched in length, and breathed with a laborious rasp. As a youth, tutors were hard-pressed to school the dull boy. Midwives and nurses surrounded him, attending his every ailment with balms and vapors from every corner of the Isles. But when he came of age, he sent them away, often becoming violent in their dismissal. Perhaps showing the influence of his father, Cesrian became increasingly introverted, allowing only a select few courtiers in his presence. He was seen in public only when organizing his vassal fanatics for yet another raid on the countryside. Atypically adhering to the desperate counsel of his advisors, Cesrian paused in his plundering to take a wife and ensure the continuation of Vitharn's noble line. The increasingly ill count chose a vibrant peasant woman as his betrothed, from a heretic commune in the wilds of Mania. Indeed, Countess Jadine could not have been any more his opposite. Vassal fanatics, long loyal to their ancestral agreements with Count Vitharn, were inflamed by this heresy. Intentions grew as the health of Cesrian finally failed, and his young son, Cirion, ascended the throne of Vitharn. Yeah, why would you've been loyal to the fanatics all along, and now you're going to switch over to the heretics? Come on. Chapter 3, in which conflict besets Vitharn, and the Irenic court Cirion is overwhelmed. Young Count Cirion had scarcely been seen in public before his hasty coronation in the bailey of Vitharn Keep. Some say he still bore bruises from beatings at the feeble hand of his father during his final hours during the ceremony. Had Cirion been old enough to govern, his gentle, reserved demeanor may have been enough to ease the seething tension among the vassal tribe, but his mother, Countess Jadine, was forced to assume many of the duties her husband had so long ignored. By all accounts, Jadine was a fit countess, loved by her people, but the leaders of the vassal fanatics could not contain indefinitely their personal sentiments of outrage at her manic heritage. Despite her exceedingly tactful attempts at diplomacy, the animosity against her was deep-seated and grew over the years. It is perhaps admirable that the vassals remained true to the oaths so long. When Cirion finally came of age to rule, the sheepish boy count tried in earnest to ascend gracefully, but his fear of the world was so great that even the shadow of a passing bird would startle him visibly. That is fucking crazy. He was all but unable to address the people publicly, and when he attempted to placate the vassals, still outraged by his mother's heritage, he could scarcely contain his fright, and some say that he even soiled himself before fleeing the throne chamber. Goddamn, it doesn't get any more embarrassing than that. Certain as the march of fate, the tolerance of the vassal fanatics snapped, and warriors encircled Vitharn. The Count's personal guards were ill-suited to repel the attack, and the siege lasted a single day. Since the day of that battle, no living soul has wandered away from Vitharn. Local myth tells of a tireless struggle between the spirits of the fanatic vassals and Vitharn's meager defenders, damned by the treachery of fanatics and the cowardice of Cirion to replay their final moments in perpetuity. That would have been a really good book to have read, before we did that quest, but here we are, quite a while after we already completed the quest. But anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for today. So thank you for joining us. Yeah, we knocked out another 3 books. Just got another lot to go. The next 5 videos are all just going to be us reading 1 book at a time with this goddamn Real Baron Zaya story. Goddamn, those books are long as hell. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in that next video. Till then, goodbye.
I don't wanna see the glow without you. Refuse to even leave my home without you. Or my brain's gonna explode without you. I don't even know how to cope without you. Cause I don't wanna see the glow without you. Refuse to even leave my home without you. Or my brain's gonna explode without you. I don't even know how to cope without you.